Frankie from Flatbush rides the Brooklyn line. Got a swagger sharp like a vintage wine. Everybody knows his name from porch to stoop. Hustle and dreams in every loop. In the park he struts, hits the handball wall. Echoes hear the stories.
Well, it's Wednesday, November the 20th, 1752 hours. We got ourselves a report. Yeah, they're at it again, these reporters. And so we got to break down the media. We got to figure out what these people are doing. We got to understand what's going on with our team. There's a damaging report out of the Athletic, and we need to talk about it next.
Hey mate, are you enjoying this video? Then go ahead and click the subscribe and like buttons for Frankie. If you think about it, a few years ago, due to an incident involving a black bear, 7 tennis balls and an Allen wrench, Frankie decided to shut down his channel with thousands and thousands of subscribers. Now he's trying to build it back up. Do the man a solid, hit subscribe. Thanks, mate.
Well, we got this new report. Obviously, we got problems. We got no general manager. We don't have a full-time head coach. But we got a report, and this is from The Athletic by Diana Rossini, Dirty Diana, great Michael Jackson song. Jets owner Woody Johnson suggested benching Aaron Rodgers in September. Sources are never revealed, but they're sources. All right, so let's take a look at this. New York Jets fired Joe Douglas on Tuesday, 6 weeks after the team fired Robert Saleh. According to multiple team sources. So I would suggest anybody on the Jets who is a team source to these two, shut the f up. Stop talking to the media. Why do we have so many leaks? Who spoke to The Athletic about the team's inner workings? We don't need the team's inner workings going out to Dirty Diana. Woody Johnson suggested a more drastic move earlier in the offseason. According to these sources, the day after the Jets lost to the Denver Broncos on September 29th, there was a contentious meeting at the facility, one Jets drive. It included Johnson, Douglas, Christopher Johnson, Jaime El-Hai, team president. Somebody should look into him. What's he doing? How come he never gets blamed for anything? And Ira Axelrad. This is a new guy. Ira Axelrad. Somebody probably needs to look into him. What's he been doing? What advice has he been giving to Johnson? He's an advisor. You're not very good with the advice, Ira. Maybe we need a new advisor, like Curtis Martin, for example. It included a group of coaches, Saleh, Hackett, Ulbrich, Boyer among them. Coaches had been called in to explain. We need an explanation, please. What the hell happened with their units? And we lost to the friggin' Broncos 10-9. That was a terrible game. During that meeting, Johnson suggested to the coaches that they bench Aaron Rodgers because Rodgers' performance is holding the team back. They were stunned and talked him out of it. Johnson was calmed that day, but that set the tone for what happened a week later. Then Johnson made the decision to fire Saleh without consulting general manager or anyone else for that matter. It says Douglas had already lost some power midway through last season when Johnson took a more active role. For example, we were getting ready to propose a contract for Bryce Huff. Johnson vetoed that. And any other moves involving paying new money. We fired Rex Hogan, the leaker, one of the leakers. Now we got other leakers. Chad Alexander left. And these people were not replaced. So it seems like for some reason, Johnson's getting thrifty with the money, if we take this report seriously. And we also had a trade in place for Jerry Jeudy, offering Alan Lazard in a day 2 draft pick, according to league source. But Johnson nixed that. Judy was instead traded to the Browns. But we then did sign Tyron Smith and Mike Williams. So some of this isn't adding up and some of it is. So he was willing to spend for Tyron Smith and Mike Williams, but he wasn't willing to get Jerry Jeudy, who would want a contract extension after getting traded because he got one from the Browns. Now, both of these were incentive-laden deals, and Jerry Judy's deal was $18 million. Mike Williams we signed for 10, up to 10, and Tyron Smith was heavily incentive-laden. And it goes into Hassan Reddick. And then now this has gotten to the point of the ridiculous. On Sunday, the Jets benched Tony Adams at the behest of Johnson, according to a team source. So that could be Joe Douglas. We don't know. Johnson also wanted the Jets to practice during their bye week, which didn't go over well with some of the locker room's leaders. Now, how much of this can we really believe? And what does it mean for the Jets? Well, one thing we might want to do, for example, is listen to this man, Bill Belichick, about what goes on with owners and head coaches and how they can be. Let's listen.
And also, that can't happen. That can't be happening.
Pat, I mean, I'll be honest with you. The kind of the worst that it ever was for me, honestly, were these two questions. In Cleveland, the guy that's run the defense, like, does he really know what he's doing? Are you sure we're okay on defense? Do you think maybe, do you want to maybe call some more of those defenses? Save it. Right, just save this defense coordinator. Offensive line. I know we're not the most talented offensive line, but what about the coaching? Like, are we okay on the coaching up there? I feel like we can maybe get a little more out of these guys with the coaching. Now, that's Kirk Ferentz and Pat Hill. No, the problem is not the coaching. The problem is not the coaching.
Oh, my God.
Of all the coaches to be asked about on the staff, the O-line and the defense with Saban, Ferentz, and Pat Hill, that was mind-boggling.
Oh, my God.
I got to be honest. That was mind-boggling.
Imagine being a billionaire owner, too. Just, excuse me. Who's this little Nicholas, I think his name
Saban is his name?
He doesn't see him at all. Oh, yeah, he'll go on to be one of the greatest of all time.
So you see right there, this stuff happens. I think it happens all the time. We just never hear about it because teams don't leak. Then you have this. This is a little confusing, but this is Duke Manyweather. Came out as soon as Joe was fired, and people know I respect Duke very much. He said this: ownership called more shots than people think. Unfortunately, when you get a heavy dose of non-football people, making football decisions, it alienates the football people, and sometimes they just have to wear the darts. So now we have multiple confirmations that this happens. It's a common practice. And then Duke Manyweathers, who works with many, many different players, including the Jet players on offensive line stuff, saying ownership called the shots more than people think for the Jets in particular, meaning Woody. So now, you got this report over here, and it's not looking good. In other words, how much can we put on Woody, and how much can we really put on Joe Douglas? He had to deal with all this crap. And what is it going to be like moving forward? I mean, this is the one report from Rossini that seems to have some kind of basis for believing that it's true. Because the thing about it is that from the time that we were set to acquire Aaron Rodgers, a lot of the moves we made, as opposed to the previous 2 to 3 years, were moves I could not predict and could not understand in hindsight, including the decision to go for Rodgers over Derek Carr, when Carr would cost you just money, and Rodgers cost you money and draft picks. So from that point on, there were a lot of decisions that quote unquote Joe Douglas made that I didn't get and that made no football sense. But now when you add this in, it does make sense that Woody was calling the shots, or Ira, or Jaime, or somebody, the non-football people. So on the one hand, you could say, well, this is the owner being passionate and fired up, and we're going to, do all sorts of things. But at the same time, he doesn't know what he's doing. Really, you're going to bench Tony Adams? Why? This move made no sense in particular, if you think about it. Dom C told me about it, and I was like, what? Where's this coming from? But I didn't realize Dick Chimney had already reported out on it. And in fact, it was true. And the idea being we need to stop the run. So shouldn't we have our best two run defending safeties, which is Chuck Clark and Jalen Mills, on the field? Yeah, to a moron, that makes sense, Woody. So, because the idea would be, all right, well, if we're going to drop a safety into the box, Chuck Clark, he was coming back from injury. All right, we're going to load up the box to stop the run. We're going to drop Chuck Clark in the box. Okay. Well, then you're going to have a single high safety. To have a single high safety, you want your best center fielder out there. That's your free safety. That's Tony Adams. You want a guy who can run, really run, because you only have one. He's middle of the field, close, single high safety, and so this made no sense. And then the thing to do rather would have been to then say, all right, Jalen Mills is going to be our big nickel, and maybe you play more big nickel. That way Mills is on the field for tackling, but Adams is on the field, to play center field, because that's the free safety's role for the most part. So what the hell, man? So this is what happens when you have, and this is me doing an analysis. Now imagine our professional 20 years in the league coaches, 20 years coaching, plus a lot of them played in the league. Imagine them hearing this from Woody. If I can break it down and say this is the stupidest thing I ever heard, imagine them. And then Jeff Olbrich has to go out there and answer questions from the press about why'd you bench Tony Adams? And he didn't want to say it. He didn't say it. Give him credit. Give the man credit. He did not throw Woody under the bus. Got to appreciate the politics of that. But imagine having to answer for that. A lot of things went into it, he said. Yeah, a lot of things did go into it. They're named Woody Johnson and Ira and Jaime. That's what went into it. Ira and Jaime. Remember those names. Those are the people screwing up our franchise and Woody. It's unbelievable. Really, Woody Johnson. I mean, the quarterback you could see to some extent. The money people, the money men got all up in Woody's face and said, "We need Rodgers. We can sell tickets with Rodgers. We can market Rodgers. We need Rodgers over Derek Carr. He's a much more marketable guy. We need the primetime games. We need the ticket sale. We need the season tickets. Everything. Okay, that's the quarterback. All right, I can understand it. And plus, you could make the case, Rodgers is better anyway. What are we talking about? Get him, right? Forget all the other risks involved. Let's just get him. Okay, I could see that. But really, Woody's getting down in the weeds and saying, bench the free safety? Really? Bench the free safety. That's where we've gotten to with this guy. So I think this report, as opposed to the other ones, the other ones may have been 20% correct, 40%. I think this one's probably accurate. You have confirmation from Bill Belichick. This happens all the time. You have confirmation from Duke Manyweather that, yes, ownership called a lot of the shots, more than people realize, for the Jets specifically. So you have a general confirmation that, yes, owners do this a lot. And then you have a specific confirmation from Duke Manyweather, yes, the Jets ownership does this a lot. Therefore, I think it's true. So I feel bad for Joe Douglas. I think he did the best he could with the hand he was dealt, honestly. And in future videos, I'll go over some ideas for positive, what we could think of positively for solutions. But for now, I just wanted to go over this damaging report and talk about it. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'll see you next time. And as
Frankie
always,
from
stay
Flatbush
frosty.
rides the Brooklyn line. Got a swagger sharp like a vintage wine. Everybody knows his name from porch to stoop. Hustling dreams in every loop. In the park he struts, hits the handball wall. Echoes hear the stories when the shadows fall. Got 1,000 tales and a confident grin on the streets of Flatbush where legends begin. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near. He's got the rhythm, everybody cheers. Corner talks and sidewalk chalks his fame. In the Flatbush breeze you'll hear his name. Underneath the subway hum, the magic's real. Frankie's moves got that electric feel. From Atlantic Avenue to the urban hill, Flatbush Frankie's giving you a thrill. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow.